Hey chess lovers, welcome back to the Chessyard. This is Dhairya Bagga and just wanted to show you this game. I was actually coming back from outside, was in a cab, thought of playing a Blitz game like always, and this is how it went. So in the game, I was playing as white, and I started off with d4. Opponent goes with d5. I develop the knight. Opponent also develops the knight. Again, the ideas of just going for the center. I develop the bishop here. Opponent solidifies the center by pushing c6, and now I can shut my diagonal after taking up the bad bishop. Played e3. Opponent takes out the light square bishop. I solidify the center again, trying to create a pyramid in the center. uh, Quite useful in the long run. Opponent also creates a similar pyramid as well. So it is kind of a symmetrical structure for both the players for now. Apart from the bishops, just the light square bishop for black is not pinning my knight for now. I develop the other knight. Opponent goes for queen to b6, and generally, so here's a small thing: whenever queen comes to b6, the right move is to go with queen to d3. Just offer a queen trade. If the opponent takes, you can simply take back with the knight, and you are good. People generally, otherwise, sometimes either miss this pawn on to b2, which can be then taken if you don't develop your queen, or you try to defend it in a wrong way. Maybe just put your queen here, lose your queen by accident. Otherwise, your queen gets misplaced onto c1, defending this pawn as well. Other thing can be you go with b3. In case of that, you are weakening your c3 pawn as well. The idea then eventually can be to push c3, ask for a trade and develop your knight thereafter. But in those lines, then this dark square bishop can also come in between, and things can get complicated. So rather, I would advise to go with just meet the queen as soon as your pawn is attacked. Get your queen also onto the same file and get traded if required. Opponent develops the knight again, understanding that if I take, they can also take back with the knight. Similar ideas. I developed my light square bishop. Opponent develops their dark square bishop onto d6, and I castle, and so does my opponent. Now, so far, this is a typical structure in any game. This seems quite normal. Generally, this is the point where people start getting confused now what to do. The anxiety pops in because, see, you know how to develop your pieces. You have done that part. You know that you need to castle. You have castled, and the board is all set for a complex middle game. Now, navigating through a middle game to an end game is important, and then trying to win in an end game is also tricky. uh, I went ahead, decided to trade off this knight with my dark square bishop. This was not doing much. I can just get it back eventually, and then maybe trade this dark square bishop. But I thought, okay, I'll take the knight. My idea was if the opponent takes back with the knight, I can then trade off the queen and damage my opponent's pawn structure. Because if my opponent takes with the pawn instead, that opens the king. So most likely, opponent will take with the knight. And that what actually happens in the game. Now I take the queen. Opponent takes back with the pawn. There's no other option. So now opponent has some weakness in the long run, right? So I've created that small uh, breakthrough for me eventually, that which might turn out. Now I just play my pawn forward, so that I'm able to freely move my rook wherever I feel like. It's not dependent, and saving this a2 pawn is now at a3. Opponent pushes the pawn onto b5. The idea is again to put all the pawns on light squares, make a square for dark square bishop eventually if required. And again, basically they're looking better as well now. The double pawns. I went with rook to c3. My idea being eventually when I play this pawn forward and get trades, this rook will be helpful. Not right away, of course, because there are two pawns defending, so I will be losing a piece if I trade right now. Opponent goes back with the knight, maybe trying to plant the knight eventually onto c4. I thought, okay, now this bishop can be annoying. Sorry, I just remembered in the game when I was playing, I always have to be careful about this bishop and not move my rook to b1. I also thought if I just challenge this bishop and maybe just go with knight attacking the bishop, bishop can either go back, it cannot come on to e4, I can trade off with my knight, it cannot come here onto d3, otherwise I will take with my bishop. So the only square remaining was c2, so that's why I chose to move the rook to c2 and not any other square in the game. And then I went with knight to h4 attacking the bishop, bishop goes back, I take the bishop now. That's the second double pawn my opponent has now, right? So creating those small weaknesses, push the pawn forward to h3, pawn comes forward in the center, opponent is trying to break through the center, I trade back here, opponent takes back with the knight, and I offer a knight trade. Opponent tries to save that, but then is attacking my pawn as well, so I have to give them my bishop. Opponent takes back. Now if you notice, there are three double pawns for my opponent. Again, long term weaknesses. I just centralize my other rook, attacking the bishop, which is defended by the rook. I do a rook lift here, trying to maybe double up my rooks. Opponent goes back with the bishop. I double up the rooks. Opponent tries to now attack my rook. So of course I need to trade now. So I trade. Opponent takes back. I trade this one as well because I know this looks a comfortable endgame to me to begin with, because at some point in time when the opponent has to move these pawns, my knight would be helpful if it's in the center and I plant my knight at the center. The opponent cannot push my knight because b5 will be lost. Opponent tries to put bishop onto dark square. I just start moving my king towards the center. It's always important in the end game to your king activity is basically important. I just move my king forward to e2. Opponent takes here. I can take with either pawns. I thought taking with the e pawn makes more sense because I can just walk my king further up to the board. Opponent also starts moving. I also move. In this position, I thought if I just play king forward, opponent can go with king to f5, pawn to f5, and then I can maybe push my king further. I didn't like f5 on the board to be coming, so I just played g4 myself so that I can probably meet this up with a trade. Opponent pushes the king forward. I also do that, and then f5 came. I now again I am inviting my opponent to take here so that I can take back, and these double pawns will be a true weakness at that point in time. Just move my king. Opponent also moves the king. Here I think I should have gone with pawn forward. uh, the only reason I didn't like it because the opponent had two squares here to navigate, and the opponent can eventually put me in a zugzwang, and I'm not able to make progress. So I thought, okay, let me just play f3 for now. Opponent pushes my king back. I go back. Opponent pushes g6 now. Again, I can take. Opponent can also take. I want to maintain that tension. Okay, sorry for that. So I want to maintain that tension, and then in this position, I opponent takes back. I take back with the king. Uh, Opponent pushes my king again back. I go again. If you see, both are trying to maintain that tension, not take each other's pawns. I move the king, and here my opponent pushes the pawn forward, which gives me an opportunity to grab onto e4 square, which makes a path for my king eventually. But it's important to notice that. So here my opponent tried to trick me as well. Eventually, I just come back. We repeat the position. I come back up. Opponent plays, king to e6. Now I can falter, but so let me just exactly pinpoint to the position. Here in this position, I played h4. My idea was simple. If my opponent takes, I'll take the pawn, and then this is a pass pawn, right? And because I am in the square to defend and take this pawn eventually, I will be fine. Opponent does take here. I take the pawn, and yeah, it's kind of game over now because I can start pushing my pawn. Opponent tries to break through the other side, but that's quite solid. So I take first. Opponent takes back. Now it's the double pawns again are bothering opponent. If they push their pawn, I can simply take and maybe not even take and let that be as is, because if they take, I can take. My single pawn is ahead of the two pawns. The king cannot navigate and probably come to this pawn eventually. So I just put my king towards the h5 pawn. Opponent tries to make a move, but yeah, it's end of the road because now I am just simply winning by putting my king. It's a g pawn. It will promote easily. So yeah, I think hanging in the game for a longer period, creating those small weaknesses, as I mentioned, multiple double pawns in the game, knowing when to trade is important and tricky. And I hope there was something to learn for you as well, and you improve your games. Right? Thanks for watching as always, and yeah, see you tomorrow probably. Take care. Bye bye.